tension, based on real events. The school built on graves, Ashford, Colorado. I grew up in Ashford, Colorado, a little mountain town pressed tight by the Front Range. Our Lincoln Middle School on Maple Street sits where old St. Matthew's Cemetery used to be. When the town ran out of buildable land, the city council voted to level the ground, haul away the headstones, and pour a new foundation. The dead were left sealed beneath the concrete. History filed away in a storage yard and forgotten. The night watchman was a man named Hank Delaney. Most of us called him Mr. Hank. He was the practical sort, a retired machinist who didn't scare easy. But he swore that when the last bus pulled out and the hallways of Lincoln went quiet, the building started acting like it had a pulse. At first it was small things. A dry scuff of slippers on tile, a desk dragging 2 inches in room 112, the boiler thumping like a slow heartbeat under the James Monroe Gymnasium. Then the PA system would crackle awake with nothing but slow, wet breathing, and the motion lights on the cedar wing flickered one room at a time, as if someone was standing just outside their reach. One January night, making rounds in the gym, Mr. Hank heard a single, hollow bounce. The basketballs were caged and padlocked, except one, sitting by itself at center court where no footprints led. As he raised his flashlight, the climbing ropes began to sway, testing their weight as if invisible hands were pulling down. The equipment closet eased open against the stopper and a draft crawled out, smelling like damp soil and cut flowers. On the chalkboard, a child's handprint appeared in white dust. No prints leading to it, just the mark, small and turned the wrong way, as though pressed from the other side of the slate. He told Principal Parker and the staff. They smiled and said Lincoln was an old building. But the kids who stayed late knew better. Kayla Whitman and Miguel Ruiz found wet footprints on the stairwell that faded toward the roof and stopped at a locked door. A 7th grader swore the trophy case fogged from the inside and a fingertip drew his last name, Ruiz, backward. In Mrs. Collins's classroom, the wall clock ticked 7 seconds backward before snapping forward so hard the glass rang. Down in the old boiler room, somebody kept humming America the Beautiful off-key in a child's voice until the humming turned into the stifled cough of dirt in a throat. Folks in Ashford started calling it Lincoln's Quiet Hour. The sheriff's office sent Deputy Mark Ellison once. His body cam showed nothing but a corridor turning the lights on and off ahead of him like it wanted him to keep walking. After that, he stopped taking calls from Maple Street after midnight. Mr. Hank quit trying to convince anyone. He simply changed his route, refused to cut across the courtyard, and never looked up at the windows of the cedar wing after 12:03 a.m. The time, he said, when the school remembered what lay beneath it. Now it's just part of Ashford folklore, the kind people pretend to forget until they have to pass Lincoln Middle in the dark. Maybe the place is cursed. Maybe the ones buried under St. Matthew's never learned the way out when the markers were taken away. All I know is this. When the lights are off and the halls are empty, Lincoln breathes. It remembers who sleeps under the foundation, and it wants the living to remember, too. Next scary story. I want to share a terrifying thing that happened to me and my friend Ethan Miller just outside Maple Hollow, PA. We took our bikes into Ravenwood Preserve one evening. Nothing crazy, just a quick loop before dark. The air was cool, birds loud, tires whispering through leaves. About 30 minutes in, the trail got quiet in that wrong way, like sound itself stepped back. No birds, no wind, just our chains and the soft crunch of gravel. Then we heard it. A rustle behind us that kept the same distance no matter how fast we pedaled. I looked over my shoulder and froze. Between the trees stood a girl in a white dress, too pale, too still, hair hanging forward like wet string. Her face was almost hidden, except for the black streaks running from her eyes, thick as oil, sliding down her cheeks and soaking into the cotton. I swear the streaks didn't glisten like normal tears. They looked heavy, like gravity was pulling them harder than it should. My chest locked. I hissed at Ethan to move. We kicked into a sprint. That's when the small things started. My bike computer flashed 7:42 p.m. and then glitched to 3:03 a.m. A toy-like humming floated through the trees. Ring around the rosy, off-key and breathy. The way kids sing when they're trying to be creepy on purpose. Ethan said it was the wind. Then the wind stopped. We hit a straightaway and I risked another glance back. The girl wasn't standing anymore. She was running on all fours, elbows high like a spider, her head bent at a wrong angle so the hair stayed in her face. The black tears dripped from her chin but didn't fall to the ground. They seemed to blur in the air, like heat on asphalt. She screamed, sharp, tearing, and the sound bounced off the trees and came back different, deeper, like someone else screamed with her from under the dirt. We hammered the pedals. Shadows stretched across the trail like ropes trying to trip our wheels. Something tugged my backpack, hard enough to yank my shoulder, and when I glanced down, there were small handprints in the dust on the frame bar, all pointed the wrong way, like the fingers were reaching up from below. Ethan's headlight flickered. Mine cut out and then blasted back on, pointed down at my front tire as if someone had twisted it. The air smelled like wet pennies. At a split in the path, the wooden trail sign had been scratched with 5 dragging lines. No bark around to make them. We took the left fork because the right led deeper, and I didn't want deeper to be part of our night. Twilight collapsed into full dark long before it should have. We switched to phone flashlights. Ethan tried to snap a photo behind us and the screen came up with static and a grin. Not hers, just a mouth too wide, nothing else. For the last stretch we rode in near silence, except for the swingy, glassy sound of our spokes, and that hum following behind us, getting brighter each time we blinked. After what felt like half an hour of pure panic, the trees thinned and the gravel turned to the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. We shot out of the trail mouth like bullets and didn't stop until we reached the street. We were shaking, lungs burning, trying to laugh it off, when Ethan stopped laughing first. He stared past me. I turned and saw her standing just beyond the wooden map board at the trailhead, dress hanging, those black tear tracks darker than before. She wasn't chasing now. She just watched, head tilted, as if curious, while a slow smile climbed her cheeks like someone pulling a string. I noticed something new. The wet footprints we'd left on the asphalt, stamped out in mud and sweat, were fading in reverse, as if something was licking them clean, step by step, back toward the trees. We don't ride Ravenwood anymore. We don't even drive past it after dark. But sometimes, when I'm coming home along County Road 17, I catch a white shape between the pines by the guardrail, and for a split second I smell wet iron and hear a child's voice humming that same broken rhyme. If you ever see a girl in a white dress with black tears outside Maple Hollow, don't stop, don't look back, and whatever you do, don't blink. December 2022, Cleveland, Ohio, Prospect Avenue. I want to tell you what happened to me in December 2022 in Cleveland. After a brutal day at work and an ugly fight with my wife, I needed to clear my head, so I ducked into a small late-night diner on Superior Avenue, ordered a burger and a double whiskey, and tried to cool down. Around 10 p.m., I called my friend Josh Bennett and asked if he could swing by. He offered to drive me home, but I said I'd rather crash somewhere else for the night. We found a cheap studio on Prospect Avenue, an old walk-up building with month-to-month units. Josh dropped me off, told me to text in the morning, and drove away. The studio was tired but harmless at first glance. Yellowed paint, a sagging full bed, an old microwave blinking 12 o'clock. A box fan sat in the window though it was winter. The landlord, Mrs. Alvarez, handed me a key and said, "Heat's finicky, just jiggle the thermostat." I took a hot shower, killed the lights, and fell into the mattress like a stone. Sometime later I woke with a dry, desperate thirst, the kind that makes your tongue feel like paper. The room was cold. The thermostat screen, which I remembered at 68, now read 58. Outside, Prospect Avenue was silent. No buses, no sirens, just that thick 3 a.m. Quiet. I padded toward the kitchenette and stopped dead in the doorway. Someone was standing by the window. It was a tall woman, too tall, almost brushing the ceiling, wrapped in a thin white sheet that clung like wet fabric. Long black hair hung forward over her shoulders. She stood with her back to me, perfectly still, looking out at Prospect as if the glass were a mirror. For a second I told myself it was a reflection or a trick of streetlight. Then I saw what she was holding. In her arms, the sheet was bundled around something that moved. A small, shifting weight. The bundle gave a soft, wet sound, like a breath trapped in a cloth. The microwave screen, which had been dark, suddenly lit to 3:03 a.m. without anyone touching it. The faucet gave a slow drip, drip, the drops dark in the light from the window. From somewhere under the sink came a faint plastic rattle, like a toy struck gently against wood. "Hey," I tried, but my voice broke. The woman began to turn, not stepping, gliding. Her hair slid aside. Her face was too pale, the color of candle wax, and her eyes were wide and wrong, weeping black tears that crept along her cheeks in thick tracks and fell without sound. The bundle twitched, and something inside it scraped lightly against the window glass, like tiny nails. The air dropped colder. My breath fogged. From the dark TV screen, I heard the thin, off-key hum of "Hush, little baby." The screen stayed black, but the sound was inside the room. I ran. I grabbed my keys, yanked the door open, and slammed it behind me. Before the deadbolt set, the other side shuddered under a heavy blow, one, then another, as if someone pressed a shoulder against it, then scraped something long down the wood. Through the peephole, I saw only the stairwell light flickering. As I backed away, a small hand, far too small for an adult, spread over the peephole from the hallway side, blocking it completely. I nearly fell down the stairs. I waited in the stairwell until dawn, sitting under the exit sign that buzzed like a wasp. The building was silent except for an occasional soft thump above me, like footsteps crossing the studio in slow, careful lines. At 6:41 a.m., the radiator kicked on with a metallic clank and the buzzing stopped. I texted Josh, "Come now." He arrived 20 minutes later, coffee in hand, worried and shivering. When we opened the apartment, it looked untouched. Bed made, counter dry, window locked, but near the kitchenette, in the dust on the floor, we saw a trail of tiny damp footprints. They ran from the sink to the window and just ended at the baseboard heater, as if the wall had swallowed them. Under the sink, where the rattle sound had come from, lay an old baby rattle, yellowed and cracked, the kind with a cloudy plastic bell. Neither of us touched it. I handed the key back to Mrs. Alvarez and mumbled that I wasn't feeling well. She looked at the key, then at me and said softly, "Some people hear the pipes at night. Don't worry, it's an old building." When I glanced up at the office wall, a faded calendar photo of a baby in a knit cap had a gray smear down one cheek, as if a wet finger had dragged through the ink. I haven't rented by the night since. I don't walk down Prospect after dark. But every so often, driving home along East 14th, I pass that building and my eyes flick to the third-floor windows. The blinds barely move, no draft, no storm, and for a split second I see the tall outline by the glass, holding something that wriggles, while the microwave glow behind her flashes 3:03 again and again like a heartbeat that refuses to stop. I don't know who or what she was. I only know that if thirst wakes you in a place that isn't yours, don't go to the kitchen. And if you do, don't look at the window. Thanks for watching until the next scary stories.